I think in the US, it's just a huge marketing campaign for beer and alcohol companies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the numbers, but I've read it's on par with the Super Bowl. For beer sales, alcohol sales, tequila, guacamole.
Well, welcome to this Cinco de Mayo edition of Chino y Chicano. I'm Enrique Cerna, and of course, I'm recording here on Cinco de Mayo, which is the 5th of May. A lot of Americans are going to be celebrating this day. No, it's not a holiday, national holiday. It isn't even one in Mexico, to be honest with you. But this is a day when a lot of people get together and they're going to be eating tacos and enchiladas and Mexican food, and those that can drink are probably going to be drinking and maybe way too much because it's Cinco de Mayo and people get together and they do that. They consume alcohol. I don't actually because I don't drink. But I thought this might be a good time to do, well, a little history lesson. It's a learning situation. And I wanted you to know what really Cinco de Mayo is all about and how it's celebrated here in the States versus Mexico. And oh, by the way, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. That is September 16th, and that's a whole different thing. Anyway, I just thought it would be good to educate folks about what Cinco de Mayo is all about, how it's celebrated here in the States, how it's celebrated in Mexico. So I turned to one of my cousins, one of my primos in Mexico. His name is Manuel Serna, and he spells his last name with an S. I do it with a C. A lot of us here in the States do that, of cousins. And he knows this well because he actually spent his college years at Texas A&M, and then, he has his Mexican roots, so he can talk about all of this. So here now is my conversation with my primo, Manuel Cerna. All right, now joining me now from Torreón, Coahuila in Mexico is my primo, my cousin, Manuel Cerna. Actually, we know him as Manolo in the family. So Manolo, how you doing?
Sure.
We haven't talked for quite a while. I see you on Facebook and you're always going to all these competitions, athletic competitions around the world. But yeah, good to see you. It's been a while,
Nice to
huh?
see you too, Primo. It's been a
Yeah,
while, of
yeah, it
course.
has. Okay, I want folks to know a little bit about you. You live in Torreón, where we have family. Your family has also had this bus transportation operation for quite a while. You work there, right? It was actually started by your grandfather.
It was indeed started by my grandfather. It was boosted by the second generation, which is like my dad and his brothers and sisters. And so, yeah, I work there for a public transportation business. We also operate a few fueling stations in the region.
Your Manuel, your grandfather was named
Manuel as well.
Manuel as well. Yeah, I remember him quite well. He was one of my dad's older brother, and they were pretty close. So that was good. So
Hmm.
we have lots of cousins in Torreón and all of that in Mexico yet, which is kind of great because when we go back there, we can call you guys and say, "Hey, how you doing?" You actually went to college here in the States, right?
I did my undergrad in Texas A&M.
Okay.
I was there for 4.5 years.
So
It's
you know the Cinco de Mayo thing here in the States. You know
I
how that.
know both parties. I know the Mexican version and I know the American version.
Which well, I think the Mexican version's probably got to be a lot more fun. Let's face it. So
I
yeah.
really doubt it.
No, really? Okay. All right. So let's talk about this because here in the States, Cinco de Mayo is kind of like a party day for a lot of people. But give me a little bit of the history. Everybody, I think a lot of people here, maybe some do know, some don't know. They think it's Mexican Independence Day, which isn't true. That's actually in September. But how is it celebrated in Mexico?
Mexican independence happened in 1810.
Hmm.
And Cinco de Mayo, the Battle of Puebla, Batalla de Puebla in Spanish, as we know it, happened in 1862. So there's a big gap in the timeline. So it has nothing to do with Mexican independence. All right.
Right.
Now the battle happened in Puebla. We have two. differentiate between Puebla the state and Puebla the city, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So this happened as the French tried to seize the city of Puebla. It was more of a morale boost, to be honest, because the Mexican managed to hold the French army once. All right, and we have we have to be honest because we won the battle, but we're not victorious. Right? The city was eventually seized by the French. They had a better army, better weapons, more educated as well. But part of our winning strategy was we had higher ground, and so the Mexican army took advantage of it.
So it was really a moral victory because the French at that time had a bigger uh, army, had a stronger army, but the Mexican forces happened to stand up to them and defeat them on that particular day.
On
Uh,
that particular day,
yeah,
exactly. That's
yeah,
what pretty much happened.
yeah.
Um,
And but it also didn't. The fact is that the French then did kind of take control of things. It was they installed Maximilian as a emperor, I believe, um, and so he ruled for a while until eventually uh, Mexico was able to be victorious and to get its republic back. I don't know how long did that take after all of that. You know,
Back and forth, there was a lot of turmoil back in the day. I think it started to stabilize until the Mexican Revolution popped, and this happened in 1910.
right?
So I guess the Battle of Puebla comes right in between Independence Day and the Revolution of the Mexican.
And that revolution actually was part of how our grandfather, great grandfather, your see, it would be my grandfather, be your great
My great
grandfather,
grandfather,
they ended up
exactly,
coming to the U.S. because
to the
of during that,
States.
yeah, to the States because he had been a landowner. He had to actually flee because he became a target of the revolutionaries at that time. So the Serna family ended up making its way into the States, but also kept its roots in Mexico. So all of that. So okay, marking this day in Mexico, is it much of a celebration? Does anything go on?
Well, not like in the US. I think in the US, it's just a huge marketing campaign for beer and alcohol companies.
It's true. I think you're right. It is. It is. And I think that's kind of how they picked it up and they
Yes.
used the PR campaign to sell beer. So, yeah.
I'm not sure about the numbers, but I've read it's on par with the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
In beer
So
sales or what?
for beer sales, alcohol sales, tequila, guacamole, uh, yeah, and all that.
Okay, so at Texas A&M, did you party there? I would
Of
imagine
course,
you
yeah,
did.
yeah, but like Cinco de Mayo, and I think this year it's gonna be harder because today's Tuesday, so Taco Tuesday and Cinco de Mayo are gonna do their thing.
Yeah, okay. But in Mexico on this day, anything going on?
No, not really. We do work,
Okay.
and if you go out to any restaurants, bars, like absolutely no one's gonna be talking.
Do they have any ceremonies or anything in any of the towns?
Yeah, of course, in schools
Okay.
and mostly in Puebla. We do some festivals. They recreate the battle as well. I mentioned like the important people there,
Yeah.
like the general at the time was Ignacio Zaragoza, but he died a few months later from something else, like an illness. It
Hmm.
was not battle related, but yeah, we do remember. We remember the battle. We celebrate it as what it was, really.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse to drink.
So what do Mexicans think of how Americans now celebrate Cinco de Mayo?
To be honest, I don't we don't really care because we don't experience. And we're very close. We're neighbors,
Right.
but culturally, we don't experience your joy for Cinco de Mayo. I mean, unless we have like American TV or something, it's just another day for us.
But that isn't the way the Mexican Independence Day is celebrated, right? That
Oh
Mexican
no,
Independence, no,
absolutely not.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
Uh, this happens in September,
yeah,
16 de septiembre,
right.
and that
September
is a big
16th.
party for us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, September
Mm-hmm.
16th, and that is a big celebration, and that happens. And actually, it's marked even here in the States by a lot of
Mm-hmm.
communities and things like that. So, Primo, I got to ask you, you probably keep your eye on Mexico and what's happening in the U.S., American news,
Of
everything
course.
happening here politically. How do Mexicans view what is happening in the U.S. these days?
Well, it's hard to say. Our opinions are quite divided. We we appreciate the states intervening in our politics because recently our politics have been our politicians have been very corrupt,
Mm,
and ever since drug dealers were declared as terrorists, the U.S. has more control over the local situation. I don't know if you've heard the news, but one of the governors from a northern state called Sinaloa,
hmm.
he was flagged by the U.S. and they want him. They want to take him to the states,
Okay.
right? Uh, I really hope it happens because justice is pretty much non-existent here in Mexico.
So you think the feeling is that with any U.S. intervention, particularly dealing with the issues of corruption or with the cartels too, that most Mexicans actually support that?
We do support it, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and we see it as our hope.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what do
So
you
there's that. Obviously, we don't agree with a lot of other topics like
immigration?
immigration. That's a big one. Yeah,
Right, right.
that's a big one. I
Yeah.
mean, we as Mexicans respect the U.S. and their decisions, but I don't agree of how a lot of immigrants have been treated in the States, especially in the States.
Right. I'm right with you. I have to tell you, Primo, that, and I don't have it right here, but I carry my passport with me when I go out. Now, I may never become a target, but I'm a dark brown guy.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so I am a target. And in a way, I do it symbolically because it's happening, but I also tell people, okay, do you carry your passport with you? And of course, most white Americans don't have to worry about that. But if you are Latino or if you're a person of color, you do here. And that is that upsets
that
me
is very
greatly.
sad because
That is
I
sad.
never thought this would happen in the States. You know, I lived there for 4.5 years doing my undergrad, and that was not my concern. You know,
Right.
I was never a victim of racism, not even once. You know, but it's been 10 years since I got back to Mexico, and if I ever go back to the States, I don't know if it's gonna be different.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I suppose it'd be an individual experience, but yet you might have some difficulty going through security at an airport or crossing the border. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I hope that I do hope if you come back to the States, you don't have any of that experience, obviously, because you're my cousin too.
I do go there but as a tourist, you know. Uh, Actually, I'm going to be running the half marathon from San Diego. That's going to be in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks
Oh,
actually.
cool.
It's going to be on May the 31st.
Uh-huh.
Um, San Diego is a beautiful city.
Yeah.
I love San Diego.
Yeah. It is. My
and I think
daughter,
running it,
you got family there. My daughter lives there. My daughter Alicia. So
awesome.
I'll have to tell them so they can come out and
Of
watch you run.
course,
Yeah,
yeah, we can
yeah.
go grab some
Yeah,
tacos.
yeah. Good tacos in San Diego. Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, awesome
All
food there.
all right.
But yeah, coming back to the topic, I don't know if it's gonna be any different to other times I've been there.
Right.
Like crossing the border, as you said. If I'm gonna be running with my visa in my back pocket, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully that you won't have to have that kind of experience. I don't want you to have that kind of experience. I got to ask you another quick question. Just what do you think of the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum? What's the feeling there?
Claudia, um, that's such a hard question. I think she's a great woman, but I don't think she was ready for being president of the country.
Really?
We do need we say in Spanish mano dura,
Mm.
you know,
Firm hand,
from hand,
strong hand.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think she has it
Hmm.
because she came into the presidential seat with a lot of bad background. And
Baggage. Yeah.
mhm.
Well, that's always the
So
case with Mexican politics, isn't it?
it is the case with Mexican politics, and that's why I applaud the states coming in and doing
Yeah.
their world police thing.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's interesting because on one hand, we're deporting people back to Mexico, but yet we're still intervening in
Right?
the country. So that
Isn't
is
it ironic?
that's very ironic. That's very ironic in that. So, hey, Primo, thank you so much for talking to me and giving me that little history background. So I take it that you won't be partying today, or maybe you will do it symbolically, I suppose, maybe. But you're an athlete.
Actually, I
You don't
won't.
do that. You don't even do you even drink?
Just a bit,
Yeah,
I'll have a beer every
yeah,
now and then. I'll have a tequila shot every now and then.
yeah.
But that's pretty much it.
All right.
And to answer your question, will I be celebrating? Not really. This conversation has been my greatest celebration like in the past 20 years.
All right, all right. I got to remember that. I got to send all this to our cousins. We got lots of cousins.
Please do.
Yeah. And by the way, our family reunion is coming up. Are you going to
I
come?
know it is.
Yeah,
I've seen
in
the Facebook
July.
posts.
Yeah. So, we have this big family reunion, 3-day affair. So I don't know if you'll make it, but I hope you do. And make sure that you say hi to your mother and to all of my other primos there in
We'll
Torreón.
certainly
All right.
do,
All
Enrique.
right. All right.
I
Hey.
appreciate you considering me for the podcast.
Hey, this is just going to be the first. We'll probably do others, okay? So,
Awesome.
all
I'm
right.
down.
All right. All right, Primo. Well, you
Thanks,
take
Primo.
care.
Say hi to all the families and my best regards.
I will. Okay. Bye-bye.